Hey guys, welcome back to a Minecraft video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about everything you need to know about Lunar Client, from the settings to the video settings to how to boost your FPS in Lunar Client. It covers basically almost everything, and there's going to be a little clip at the end of a little showcase of the settings in Lunar Client. And I hope you guys enjoy this video, and let's just get right into it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to azul.com/downloads. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. And we're going to find, we're going to find builds of OpenJDK Zulu. We got this, and this is free, so you don't have to worry about paying any money. And you're just going to click download now. That's going to take you down here. So what you want to do is you want to go find your latest version, but this is for Linux, right? If you're on Linux, you can get that for Linux. But we want the latest version for Windows, so scroll down until you see latest for Windows, and then after that, you can download the zip or the MSI. I prefer to download the MSI because it's instant, you don't have to do any extracting. And this is not a virus, I've been using it for many years now, so I can assure you that it is not a virus. So you want to click keep, and it might take a bit to download, but it should finish pretty quickly. And as you could see here, the MSI has finished downloading. So now you're going to want to click files, go to downloads, and you could see this, right? So you're going to double click it. It's going to ask for a bunch of things like your password, but it won't use them. This is Windows security. So if I double click this, it's going to ask for administration, and then you can click next, set all this up if you want to configure it. I already have it installed, so I don't have to install it again. So once it's installed, it's basically installed. You don't have to do anything more. Now you can just open up Lunar Client and run it, but before that, you could go into Lunar Client settings and allocate at least 4 to 5 gigabytes of memory. After that, experimental branch, you should do this. It contains a ton of bugs, but if you want, you can try things out. Just type in a bunch of letters, but I really don't recommend it. You should probably stick to stable branch because it's stable. And that's practically it. You can launch 1.8.9 and it will basically start running like a ton better for you. So now, as you could see, we got Lunar Client up. It's just as normal. It doesn't really change that much. All it does is it just boosts your FPS a ton. So I'm just gonna go on to, and if you go on high pixel, as you can see, it runs really smoothly. It runs at a pretty good amount of frames. Here, let me turn on FPS just for the sake of this. FPS enabled. I'm running at around pretty decent, around 200 frames, 140. Which for me is pretty good. I honestly don't think you need any more than that. It's pretty smooth. You can play Bed Wars, do whatever. It's very cool. Yeah. Alright, so the next thing you need to do is to do the in-game settings. Not the Lunar settings when you hit right shift. The in-game settings up here. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit escape. You're going to go to options. And you're going to go mainly to video settings. If you want, you could set your graphics to fancy if you want. But normally I go for fast because it really doesn't change that much. All it does is makes the cheese non-transparent, and I really don't think we need that, or I need that. So smooth lighting, I prefer to be at minimum because if it's off, it just doesn't look as good. And yeah, so if we're gonna have smooth lighting level, set that to 100% normal. GUI scale, I keep it at normal because I can see it pretty well and it's way better. And dynamic lights are off because I don't really think we need them. And if you're just playing Bed Wars or doing casual PvP, you don't really need them. And we'll get to these shaders, details, animations, quality, performance, and other. We're gonna get to that later. Let's just do the main thing. Render distance, I don't know why mine is at extreme, but you can keep it 16 at the most, but if you want, mostly you could choose 8 because it doesn't really affect anything that much. But normally I like to keep it at 16 so I could see other people's faces in Bed Wars. View bombing is off because it's just kind of annoying. Okay, so used VBOs are on. Alternate blocks are on. Dynamic FOV is on because if you turn it off, it it just sets the FOV to normal, and I really don't want that. My FOV is normally at 90. So we're not gonna get to shaders because we really don't need shaders. So details, clouds are off because we really don't need them. So clouds are gonna be off. So trees are set to default, or because there's really nothing you need to do with the trees in this. Sky is obviously on because without a sky, it's just gonna look plain and bland, you know. Skies is on, sun and moon on, fog is off because fog is really annoying. It kind of fogs up your view and it's really not that useful. Translucent blocks are on default. Dropped items are on default. Vignettes on default. Swamp colors are on. Cloud height, we don't need cloud height because clouds are off. Rain and snow is default. Everything else is on. Fog start is 0.8 if you're gonna have the fog on, but I don't have the fog on. So, and then we have held item tooltips on. All of this is on. Pretty self-explanatory. Then we have animations. If you're really laggy, you don't need all these, but just for the sake of it, I'm turning all of them on. But you don't need them. I just use them on but if you're going to have them off, you're gonna need fire animated on because otherwise, number one, it's gonna look ugly. Number two, you won't know if you're on fire or not. So yeah. Next, we're gonna go to quality. So mid-map levels for me are maximum because I really don't need anything changed with that. Anisotropic filtering is off if you want more FPS. Clear water is off, but if you want, you could turn it on. I just need to be able to see the water. Better grass is off because you don't need it, and it just lags out your game. Custom fonts, you can keep this on or off. It doesn't really matter. Connected textures, you can keep them at fast or fancy. It doesn't really matter as long as it's dependent on what the texture pack you're using. Custom sky is on. Custom entity models are on. Custom entities are on. Immersive textures are on. Mid-map type is going to be at nearest. Anti-aliasing is not necessary, but if you want it to be more quality, you can turn it on. The most I would do is probably 4. 16 just lags out your game way too much. So yeah. You could turn on random entities. You could turn better snow off, custom colors, natural textures. I keep these off for my texture pack. Custom items and custom GUIs are on for my texture pack as well. We have performance here. Smooth FPS has to be on so you don't get as many lag spikes and it doesn't just lag out your game a lot. Fast renderers off so I can use the lighting mod on Lunar client. We'll get to that later. Chunk updates are at 5. You can lower it to 1, but if you're playing Bed Wars, you probably should keep it at 5 so you can see the bases better. Render regions is off, smart animations are off. Smooth world is on, fast math is on. Dynamic updates is off because it lags out the game by dynamically updating, and lazy chunk loading is off because lazy chunk loading may boost your FPS, but it's hard to see in Bed Wars because lazy chunk loading makes it so that some chunks in Bed Wars don't load. And for other, you could just turn all of these on or off. I do weather on because why not? It doesn't really affect your FPS. Time is default. Autosave 6 minutes. Screenshot size default. You don't really need to change anything of this. And I'll probably do it for the in-game menu settings. The next settings we're going to be looking at is Lunar settings. So the first thing on the list, 1.7 visuals. This, for me, it's mandatory to be on because if you disable it, it's just going to not look good enough. Oh my gosh, sticky keys, are you serious? So I keep 1.7 visuals off. I don't really see the need for FPS, but if you want it, you can turn FPS on. I keep CPS right around here, so if you want to copy these settings, you can copy them and put that down here is where I keep my CPS. Toggle sneaker sprint, yes, this always has to be on for me at least because it helps me a lot during PvP and it's really useful. I use zoom sometimes to see bases far away and zoom it in. Okay, 1 minute, my sticky keys. So yeah, I could see it really well. So I don't have to use the telescope, which aren't in the game in 1.8. So yeah, zoom is on. My key for zoom is C because it's easy to reach for me at least, and it's pretty useful. Hypixel mods, you can have this. I use Auto GG a lot, and I really don't need anything else. You can copy these settings if you want, and I'll just move to the next one. I don't need armor status because in Bed Wars, armor doesn't run out of durability, so we don't really need it. Hypixel quick play, you can turn it on. It really depends on what you like. You can hit R and then it'll pull up this menu, choose a game, select mode. You can do that. Quick settings, and we can keep that on. Keystrokes, you can keep this on if you want, but it's not really necessary. So it might tank your FPS or something like that. We don't need any of these on, like direction HUD. It's really not that useful for Bed Wars and PvP. So I have crosshair on. This is my crosshair. I keep it mostly the same from the same texture pack, but sometimes I use custom crosshairs like this. And I use dynamic crosshairs to mark entities and friendly people. But you can use any crosshair you want. And the scale for my crosshair is normal, so it's not humongous and taking up half my screen. We have potion effects, which are on, as you can see over here. We can have potion effects on if you want. It's pretty useful for Bed Wars because you can see when your potion effects are running out. So we can also exclude potion effects here, but I don't really think we need that. You got titles here. We don't really need it, but if you want, you can have it. We have all of these on, and then we have scoreboard. This could be on if you want. I normally keep it on. It just tells you what teams and what teams are not in the game, and that's really useful. And then we have Hypixel Bed Wars. We can do stats. I don't really see the use for it, but we could still use it if you want. And there's also ping, just to see if you're running really low on ping, so I find that pretty useful. Then there's also the chat options. You could do this, you can make the chat clear, you can really customize this however you want, however you like. I keep it so that the background is clean, and smooth chat's on, and that's what I do for chat settings. Motion blur, you can have it on, but the most you should turn off old blur. The most you should do is 6 because it already looks super motion blurry with this, and it also tanks your FPS with motion blur on. I really don't recommend motion blur, but if you really do want it on, you can have it on. 4 is also a good setting for motion blur. It's not that bad, but for me, it keeps my screen blinking. I don't really like it, tanks my FPS, so I honestly don't use motion blur, but if you like the effect, you can keep it on. We don't really need pack organizer unless, you're like really, you have like a ton of packs. So you really don't need that, but if you want, you can have it enabled. We have name tags. I really don't think that we should have this on because it's kind of annoying and it's really not that useful, and it also tanks your FPS a lot. We also have tab editor here. You can copy my settings down. It customizes everything in the tab. It displays the player head. It shows tab icon, high ping over 500. Yeah, it's pretty useful and you can use it. It's not really that useful, but you can see how many people are in the game and who's in the game. We don't really need all of this on, but particle changer, you could have it on. You could turn off some particle effects if you don't need it, but we can also do that in the actual settings. So we can also do this, effect sharpness swords. I really don't have that much enabled on here, but you can turn it on. My multiplier is at 10 because it looks cool, but if you want to turn it down because of your FPS, you can do that very well. And my scale is at 1. I don't really have the need to change it, so I'm just going to keep it at 1. And I'm pretty sure, nope, that's not it. I have time changer on. I keep it at day most of the time so I can actually see things, and it doesn't go day, night, day, night, day, night. You can actually see. And And yeah. And then we also have color saturation. You can turn this on. It really doesn't matter. I really don't use it that much. See, it changes the color of the sky if you want. But I like keeping it normal. We have item physics. This may tank your FPS just a little bit, but I do it for the looks. And the rotation speed is at 0.10 because you really don't need the rotation. That can also tank your FPS. TNT countdown. This is a useful one. You can use a text prefix. You can turn on text shadow, but adjust TNT fuse time. You can do that, but you can. I like keeping it normal. So yeah, I have 3D skins on because it just looks cool. It doesn't tank that much FPS, and I just think it really looks cool. As you can see, it doesn't make it look like there's floating second layers. And yep. Basically it. No, we have block outline on. Mumble link, if you're doing proximity chat, you can have that on. Block outline, these are my colors. You can copy this. I don't have block overlay on because I just don't find that much of a use for it. We have mumble link, yeah, as I said, you really don't need this unless you're doing proximity chat. It doesn't really tank your FPS or anything like that. But if you want to do a cool proximity chat video, might do that in the future. If you want to do a cool proximity chat video, you can turn on mumble link, and yeah. So I also have snap look. I have V. I don't use auto text hotkey, which I don't use because Hypixel doesn't let that happen. I use V for snap look. It lets me look backward easily, and so if anybody's chasing me or anything like that, I can just easily hit V and you can see behind me. And I also have team view, so you can see the colors of your teams. So those were your teams on the HUD. Lighting mod, yes, this is very important so that when you're inside your base, it's not completely dark. And yeah, better sounds are enabled for me, but if you don't want them on, you don't have to do it. And I'm pretty sure that's basically it for the Lunar settings. I don't see anything else I need to have. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all you need for Lunar settings. Okay. He just no. He gapped up again, even though he's already at 24 hearts. Okay, we got that combo. Oh, he's scared. He's going back in. He's going back into his burrow. And yes, we got that dub. Let's go. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This was my first video, so please consider liking and subscribing the video. It really helps me out, and I'll see ya. Peace.